holding on, but then you went too far. When your ship has sailed and all your dreams are lost, everything is wrong, you feel like it's your fault. Just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life feels lemons, just call me. Just call me. Just call me. Just call me. You're stronger now than you ever been. You gotta leave now, it's time to catch the wind. You will climb up high and look through the clouds. And when you're feeling low, I know you'll bounce back. Oh, and just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just call me. Just call me. Just call me. Just call me.
We have had an incredible first half to this season, but it is time to wrap it up. It is the 10th round of 20 here for the Western States Racing League Season 48 from the Daytona International Speedway. Good evening, everybody. My name is Frank Marchese. Thank you very much for making us a part of your evening. Alongside me, my broadcast partner, Mike DeMoney. Mike, it was a difficult but very quick week at Hickory last week. We had 5 races in the span of about an hour. Jeff Hollingsworth coming away with the win, taking the pole. Starting third, winning heat race number 1, taking the pole for the main, leading all 60 laps. A dominant performance, one that it's going to find very, very difficult to try to duplicate here at Daytona.
Yeah, you go from the short track there at Hickory to the super speedway here of Daytona. So it is definitely a different type of race. It's all going to be about who you can work with and how long you can stay together.
I must say, I'm just noticing now your mic sounds incredibly clear. It just caught me now. We'll take a look really quick at the point standings. With that win, Jeff Hollingsworth jumping a couple of positions in the point standings. He is now 16 points behind Jeff Schmeier, who currently holds the championship lead. And you want to talk about consistency, that has been Jeff Schmeier. Short of winning at Iowa, he has been very, very impressive this season. Again, the win at Iowa was his first of the season. He has really yet to finish outside of the top 13, and that lowest finish of 13th came at the other plate racetrack at Talladega.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing he has been. He's been consistent, and that's paying off right here. He's got that nice little cushion there. Hollingsworth's been racing pretty well as well. You go back and you look at Ryan Steele, did pretty decent last week. So everybody's been putting together quite the season. So I look forward to wrapping up this first part and getting on into the second part, because this first half has been filled with several different tracks and options and everything else. So,
as Zach Woods and I said last night, if the first half of the SCL season is the second half of the SCL season is anything like the first, got to hold on, because it's going to be a wild ride. And the same thing here. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. If the second half of the season is anything like the first half, expect a lot of parity. Same guys at the front, but when it comes down to it, we've seen 8 different winners over the first 9 races this season.
Yeah, and it's Daytona, so anything can happen here. It's not one of those tracks where you have to be out front early. We could see somebody go back to front and front to back again. So definitely one of the stranger tracks that we have for Western States, as they haven't been here since 2019. But I look forward to seeing what these guys can do with the 80 laps here.
It's certainly going to be fun. And another thing that we're going to be looking at over the course of the race is the fuel strategy that these guys are going to have to be on. It's going to be an interesting race come the end of this, because all of these drivers only have 45% of their fuel fill available to them, which means only about 15 to 20 laps before these guys have to come in. 4 sets of tires, meaning the set you start on plus another 3. So this is going to make for a very tricky race, not just out on the racetrack, but on pit road as well.
Yeah, we saw that in one of the races earlier in the season. That fuel strategy came to fruition there as they ran out of fuel right when they crossed that start-finish line. So, I mean, we could be in for another run like that if somebody tries to extend that fuel mileage just a little bit further than they've been racing most of the race.
Absolutely, as we are now getting set to jump into the qualifying session here. A couple of guys jumping out on track, and when you know it, the first one to roll off is going to be the 46 of Earl Weaver, typically one of the first guys to roll off every single week. David Weaver out on track, Charles Woods, Fred Williams, James Campbell, Wayne Hutchison, Alan Bergen, Brian Barnes, all rolling out onto the racetrack. 34 drivers set to compete here tonight to see who can take home the final win of the first half of the season. And short of Talladega, it's our biggest field of the year. And including Talladega, I should say, our biggest field of the year.
I'll say, I think this is the biggest field of the year. Everybody decided to show up here at Daytona. That tends to be what happens. As we see Earl Weaver. Earl Weaver usually shows up early and often here, putting in the most practice time he can in this session, and see if it pays off here on his qualifying laps.
These practice sessions here, we spare you a lot of it. We bring you the final 5 minutes of what is normally a 2-hour qualifying practice session here for this series. So these guys have plenty of time to sit and get laps in. As we were talking about, I believe it was Earl and David Weaver both had over 300 laps done at Hickory over the course of the 2-hour practice, as Earl Weaver working his way down the back straightaway. Paul Crumry, Jeff Hollingsworth, last week's winner, out on track as well. Still a lot of guys deciding to lay back, though, and wait to get their qualifying run started as Brian Barnes makes his way out of turn 4.
Yeah, Brian Barnes actually won the last time they were here in 2019. So we'll see if, it looks like he's pulling it off here, so didn't get the run he wanted. So
I mean, he's not going to get to qualify now at this point. He's already taken the green flag. If he goes into pit road, it will be on the white flag. So if he comes around again, he'll take the checkered. So it's no time for him. Fred Williams, fastest of all so far, at a 52.37 right now. Alan Bergen, Earl Weaver, Charles Woods. Now make it James Campbell your current top 5.
Fred Williams found some speed there here at Daytona and top of the board so far. But like you said, we have lots of drivers left to go. Biggest field we've had all year, so.
About a half a tenth to the good is that number 95, and around here at Daytona or Talladega, half a tenth is quite a lot. As newcomer to the series, Chris Simard jumps to the top. Another one of the Sim Racers Edge contingent that have trickled in over these last few weeks. Beating out Ross Rawlings. Charles Woods now up to the top with a 52.31, beating out Chris Simard only by a couple hundredths of a second. Rob Gall on a flyer in the 31. That's a guy that we typically see here in this series. However, Rawlings has taken a step back this season. Gall has taken a step back this season. Has only participated in 4 races thus far this year. It was the first 4. As Gall goes 3rd quickest on his 2nd lap. Highest finish of 7th. That was back at Kansas for the number 31, as we see Julian Ricci out on track.
And Julian last week put in a pretty good run. Probably wasn't his favorite race, but still showed up and took part.
Solid run nonetheless, as we see Mike Fisher out on track. 20th fastest on his first lap, however, fastest of all on the first half of the lap here this time by Mike Fisher, taking pole in his debut race back at Bristol earlier this year. Can Fisher take his 2nd pole? Comes down below the yellow line and will do just that. A 52.27, 4 hundredths of a second clear of anybody else.
Dustin Burns now completed his first lap, 52.72. See if he can go faster 2nd time by.
Slowest of all because he was on the outside line on that first lap. Jeff Schmeier and Javier Torres are on pit road, have not yet rolled off. Bentley Glazer, Keith Kelman, Angelo Espo, Cody Matthews, Ryan Steele, Eric Bolton, and Michael Bourne have yet to start their runs. As Brian Barnes finally trundles across the start-finish line, a time of 4 minutes and 20 seconds. Something tells me he wanted to start in the back.
Yeah, probably just a little bit there.
Daniel Williams in the 8. 17th quickest on his first lap at a 52.39.
And while we were watching that, Dennis Fuson, 2nd quickest with a 52.30.
Very good
on
time
his first
for him.
lap.
Still 3 100ths of a second off, though, which again around here is a lot. As Williams making his way out of turn 4, we'll see what he can do on his 2nd qualifying run. And for Williams, he'll go up to P9, so not a bad starting spot, at least for the moment right now. For that number 8 is Will Fletcher, about to cross at the end of his qualifying run. From 27th to 6th for Will Fletcher.
Looks like Schmeier's out on track now.
Ryan
and
Steele.
Eric Bolton.
Ryan Steele on track as well. Keith Kelman rolling as well. All trying to beat the 52.271 set by Mike Fisher. He had 2 minutes and 40 seconds to do it. Eric Bolton high line on his first lap. Ryan Steele low line on his first lap. So two different ways of attacking it. Bolton will definitely be slower on his first lap, and both of those guys running almost identical times, a 53.02 for Steele, a 53.03 for Bolton. It's amazing how two completely different ways can get you almost the exact same result. As Eric Bolton on his way up. To the line, Ryan Steele will shortly follow. Bolton to P20. Ryan Steele to P2. Very good lap for the 12. Now we'll take a look at the current points leader, Jeff Schmeier. Keith Kelman on track right now. He is just about to complete his first lap. Kelman will be the last one to set a time. Javier Torres and Angelo Espo have gone out to pit road but have not rolled off. Cody Matthews, Bentley Glazer, and Michael Bourne have not gone on to pit road. Those two will not have time, as Jeff Schmeier goes up to P8. So the last one to come around will be the Red Bull Toyota Tundra of Keith Kelman. Trying to beat a 52.271 set by Mike Fisher. He's on a personal best. Right now is Kelman. And Keith Kelman will go from 30th up to 15th. So he will have his position, and that will do it for this qualifying session here tonight, as Mike Fisher will sit on pole. As we take a look now at the starting grid here for tonight's race, Mike Fisher with that time of 52.271 sets his second pole of the season, with Ryan Steele 2/100ths of a second off in P2. Dennis Fuson and Charles Woods will make up row number 2 with Chris Simard and Rob Gall in row number 3. Will Fletcher and Jeff Schmeier will make up row number 4 with Ross Rawlings and Butch Davis in row 5. Row 6 will go to Wayne Hutchison and Daniel Williams. Row 7 will see Carl Burke and Bob Beltrami. Keith Kelman and Lyle Swearingen will make up the top half of the field.
Then we got Daryl Scott and David Weaver in row 9. Row 10 is Julian Ricci and Fred Williams. Row 11, Paul Krumrei and Eric Bolton. Then Alan Bergen and Barry Phil will round out row 12. Row 13, Jeff Hollingsworth, Dan Braxington, Austin Williams, and Earl Weaver. 29th is Wayne Fleet and Dustin Burns. Then we have James Campbell, Brian Barnes, Bentley Glazer, Angelo Espo, Javier Torres, and Cody Matthews.
So we had a couple of guys sneak in there right at the very end, as there'll be 36 drivers that will compete here for the race win tonight. Taking a look at the weather conditions, we are just past 8 o'clock p.m. in sim time. 2-mile-an-hour wind blowing directly to the north, 77-degree ambient temperature, 80-degree track temperature, Mike, which means a lot of horsepower and a lot of grip for these cars, and they're going to need every bit of that grip when locking down the brakes trying to get onto pit road.
Yeah, that's going to be the dangerous part once they make that left-hand turn onto pit lane. but they should have plenty of grip as the track's set for 100% usage, and they will be definitely using that pit lane as frequently with only that 45% fuel load.
And that's going to be a really big key, is that 45% fuel fill. We spoke about it during the Open, but with that, you have to pit every 15 to 20 laps. That's a lot of fuel mileage that you need to work out, especially if you only want to pit 3 times in this race. It's going to be a fight. Guys towards the back that are going to be saving fuel, really working the draft, are going to try to make that 3-stop work. Meanwhile, guys up at the front may want to try to make that 3-stop work, but their hand might be forced to going into a 4-stop strategy.
Yeah, depending on how the cautions fall and all of that, it will definitely change the way you're going to race, you know.
Absolutely. As we work our way through turn 3 and 4, getting set to go here tonight. Final race of the first half of the season. Second and final super speedway race of the year. First time in a couple of calendar years that the Western States Racing League has done 2 super speedway races in a season. The second one is off and rolling. 80 laps here from Daytona. We are green.
Yeah, Mike Fisher down on that inside. Got a little bit of a jump, and Dennis Busan is staying right with him, as well as Chris Sumard back there in third.
A lot of moving around, but we've watched a couple of different types of super speedway racing here over the course of the last couple of weeks. We saw Thunderclap back on Wednesday in the next gens. Last night we saw the Gen 6 cars here, and now the trucks. One thing I will say about the trucks, when these guys got going, they stayed grouped up a lot better than the Gen 6 Cup car and the next gens were able to.
Yeah, I've noticed that in several of the leagues that we do call. The trucks seem to match up a little better. It seems like no matter what make they are, but you know, sometimes you get that little accordion effect, and it almost gets amplified more with these trucks a little bit too.
A little bit of a break on that outside line between the 30 of Jeff Schmeier and the 43 of Butch Davis on the high line. The 8 of Daniel Williams also pretty well off of the back bumper of that 34, as everyone kind of respecting each other, taking their time here in the early going, trying to log some laps. Last time these guys ran here was back in 2009. 19, about 5 or 6 seasons ago. I believe it was the last season before we started broadcasting this series. As, boy, my timing and scoring changes right at the moment. Who led that lap, Mike?
I'm going to say Ryan Steele probably did, but I don't know. That was pretty close. That outside line has definitely, even with only the 3 trucks there, has a little bit more momentum than that inside line. That inside line seems to be bouncing around a little bit more than that outside line is.
See a lot of wiggling around there from that 11 of Dennis Fuson, trying to stay behind that 5 of Mike Fisher as we jump on board here with Fuson. Not wanting to bump him, not wanting to bump him sideways here in the early stages, but also not looking to want to bump him, period, at this point.
Yeah, you don't... Bumping's okay, but at these super speedways, if you hit them just a little bit wrong, that could end everybody's day, especially when they're out front.
Just trying to keep a helpful but respectable distance to the car in front, not so much the car behind. There's your little bit of a bump draft right there down the back straightaway. As Ryan Steele on that outside line just can't quite make the run. that he needs, almost 2 cars behind on that outside.
Yeah, it looked like when they were hooked up and Charles Woods there wasn't moving around too much, they were able to gain a little bit of ground, but as soon as they started moving around again, they fell back pretty quick. Right now he's sitting just outside of P2 there with Dennis Fuson down to his inside, almost touching on that wiggle there.
See Ryan Steele really trying to pinch down, take that side draft off of the 11, try to help pull him forward. That's why they're getting so close to each other. These cars do not work in the same way that the next-gen cars do. Outside line not as strong in these cars as the outside line, nor is that side draft. Don't get me wrong, they still work, but not as well, or maybe not as exaggerated as it does for the next-gen cars.
Yeah, that's very true. As they slide up into that middle lane, almost lets Chris Simard go down to the inside there.
Kind of use that side draft to keep the 12 and the 40 from getting the run. Austin Williams has gone down pit road in the number, the heck is he, in the number 21, or almost went down pit road in the number 21.
Yeah, it looked like he...
Position 21, not car number 15.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it looked like he just got bumped down a little bit there. And
see, there he is. Well, he might have been looking at something else and kind of just drifted down. I mean, if you're going to drift, down will certainly be the way to go, as there's a car in the grass. And a big wreck here as that one started up at the front, because there's Mike Fisher in it.
Yeah, Mike Fisher got caught right in the middle of it there. Let's go back and take a look there.
There's Fisher, Julian Ricci in it as well. With pretty much everyone at the back of the field catching a large piece of that. Let's go back and see.
It looks like it might have just been that inside lane there.
See what happened with Mike Fisher here. Oh yeah, he got hit by Fuson, and then, boy, that was odd how he spun after he had appeared to have corrected the car.
Yeah.
See if we could back that up. Watch how the 5 appears to have it straight, and then the back end kicks out. We're going to definitely get a chance to look at it here. Out of turn 4. Fuson goes to the bottom. 5 tries to cover him off. And, of course, right behind the... Good job, Daytona, for rising right up into our camera shot. Carl Burke involved. James Campbell involved.
Like everybody about mid-pack or back is pretty much involved there, unless they were able to get slowed up before they got there.
He just tries to cover that inside line. He has it straight here, and then it just...
Looks like he might have got another little bump from the 77 there.
$60. Wow, did you see that with the 16? Watch. We're going to come on through here. Watch the 16 of Burns. Or watch the 16 of Weaver here. Notice how and where he hits the 15. There's about 3/4 of a truck between those two, and the 15 goes spinning.
Yeah,
So-
that probably hurt that the nose of that truck a little bit too much there too.
So that right there makes me think that it wasn't necessarily the 5 overcorrecting, but that was a really bad bit of net code between the 5 and the 11 that sent him around. because that was a really awkward way to spin. And then just seeing how bad the net code was there between the 15 and 16.
Yeah, it looks like it could have been just a little rough patch there on the track, but it definitely will reset this field here.
So it'll be Ryan Steele, Rob Gall, Butch Davis, Charles Woods, and Chris Simard up here at the front. The 13 of James Campbell towed and came back out. He will get a wave around here. So he will be on the lead lap. By the way, Cody Matthews and Michael Bourne did not start this race, so 35 drivers participating here tonight. Still highest field we've had by quite a margin this season. Mike Fisher and Julian Ricci still down pit road, trying to repair their trucks.
Yeah, I wonder why they must not be taking that fast repair right now, just trying to get it fixed by themselves in case they need to use it a little bit later.
Well, Richie has taken his fast repair. It must have just been a really long tow time for him. And Mike Fisher, there he goes. He just got the tow, and now he's just used that fast repair. He's off and rolling now as well. 2 laps down for those two, unfortunately. Well, just goes to show there's really no place safe on a super speedway, and we've seen it the last 2 nights. Guys right up at the front of the field getting taken out.
Yeah, you see that a lot because of that I want to call it the accordion effect there, where everybody just kind of starts bouncing, and once you start bouncing, it just kind of gets worse and worse and worse, and then somebody just gets a little bit too much throttle and catches that rear fender and spins them around.
Getting set to go again, working lap 11 of 80. Ryan Steele and the rest of the field have come down pit road, topped off their fuel tanks. Off and rolling here as Steele gets right down to the bottom line, right in front of Rob Gall.
Wasted no time to do that. Looks like Fusan's almost into the wall, stuck on that high line.
He's just about by himself as there goes Lyle Swearingen in the 68. Up on that outside line, Chris Simard. Now Ryan Steele working his way up, trying to take the momentum, trying to take the run, and will do just that as Butch Davis on the inside tries to push Rob Gall to the race lead and will successfully.
Yeah, both of those drivers, Davis and Swearingen there, are hooked up to these leaders and pushing pretty good as Steele gets a little bit dicey there after that push.
Swearingen, I'm not sure if Swearingen knows that there's only 5 cars up in that outside lane, so he's really trying to push that outside lane for all it's worth, trying to keep them up there. Chris Simard, Dennis Fuson, and Eric Bolton in the 007, that black, yellow, and purple machine at the very back of the line on the outside, and Swearingen pushes Ryan Steele out ahead. Swearingen ducks in front of Rob Gall, 68 to the race lead.
Yeah, you could almost see that setting up that way as Butch Davis, the teammate there, is right behind him now as Rob Gall jumps to the high side in front of Ryan Steele.
Well, and that's part of not being here as often as Rob Gall has been. That is a move that I would not have made, linking the 2 FBR teammates up with each other, as now Lyle Swearingen and Butch Davis push their way out to the front.
Yeah, you can definitely see that those guys have worked together before tonight, as they're pretty well locked up, but it looks like they're trying to go past the lap car there.
Big wiggle, big wiggle, big wiggle.
Yeah, it looked like Swearingen went to move up to the high side a little bit faster than Davis did.
There's two drivers up at the front, as well as Chris Simard in that number 27, that red and black car from the Sim Racers Edge Series. Butch Davis winning their race at Atlanta back on the 2nd of March. They'll be running round number 3 this Thursday night at Watkins Glen. Unfortunately, because of iRacing rules and regulations, we cannot broadcast that series anymore. Thank you very much to IndyCar trying to expand their popularity.
It's one of those things, they cut off their nose to spite their face here, but
they did put on a very good race at St. Pete to start the year, and I am still mad that Grosjean didn't win that race. But anyway, Ross Rawlings has been left out of the pack, now getting lapped, as well as the 62. That is Darrell Scott, and that's the second time he's been lapped in the last couple of laps. He's gone down pit road a handful of times already here in this race.
Yeah, staying down out of the way, so we'll see how that works out once everybody is able to get by him. Looks like he's staying out of the way pretty well there, but looks like we have some takers coming down pit lane. Brian Barnes.
Earl Weaver, Brian Barnes coming down pit road. Those two did not pit, or at least they did not stop in their box under caution. Angelo Espo down pit road, as well as is Keith Kelman in the 07. So that's 16 laps with a caution on a tank of fuel. We forget about a 3-stop race. This might be a 4 to 5-stop race that these guys are going to have to work their way through.
Yeah, especially if they keep racing the way they're racing here. I mean, 16 laps. Yeah, got it. What, 3 stops? So that'd be 4 total. Yeah, I think that's probably what they're going to wind up doing. But looking back on that bottom line, you got Jeff Schmeier up in 5th position, and Bob Beltrami not too far behind him as well.
And again, that's 16 laps with a caution thrown in there as well, so that might not be the true distance. These guys may only be able to get about 14, 13 laps as they're coming up on starting 10 right now when they cross the line. These guys all came in on lap 8. As we work lap 17, is Swearingen really trying to put the side draft to good use on that outside line as they're going to go around Keith Kelman, who stays on the bottom. Double zero machine, I believe, is Alan Bergen. They're going by now.
We've been able to get by these lap cars pretty well as Schmeier goes to the high side there. Gonna try and side draft and get some help from Rob Gall in that outside lane.
Schmeier trying to poke out. Get that push from Rob Gall. We're on board with him right now. Nice little push to the back end of that Ford F-150. Doing the proper racing etiquette thing of backing off before he gets to the corner.
These guys back in the draft are probably going to be able to stay out a little bit longer than these two up front who are using probably more fuel staying up there in that, I guess, clean air or in the air.
And that's the discussion that we were having before, is that these guys saving fuel, trying to go one stop less in the middle of the pack as we ride on board here with Wayne Hutchison. Also, you're going to have the guys that are going to go for it, go for broke, and they're okay with making the one extra pit stop.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if they decide they need to make that one extra stop, nothing's really going to stop them there. They'll be set on what they're doing, and you kind of can't. I'm gonna say you kind of can't go back from that. But
because once you commit to that extra stop, you say early on, all right, I'm going to run out front. I'm going to try to lead this race. I'm not going to worry about saving fuel. It's very, very hard once you get off of that cycle, especially around a racetrack like Daytona. It's very, very hard to save those laps of fuel that you just burned back. Especially if you try to get an extra stop in.
Yeah, exactly. There's two things you really can't plan for, and that's the caution. So if you think the race is going to go green the whole way, you can try and basically calculate your fuel strategy and pit strategy, but you have to be able to adapt, and it's going to be close because they're probably going to be having to come down pit lane any time now.
Came in on lap 8. We're working lap number 21 right now. So almost 15 laps into this run, and look at the push that Butch Davis is giving to Lyle Swearingen. He's got himself about 2 truck lengths ahead of Bob Beltrami, and they are pulling way away from the outside line.
Yeah, that is one heck of a push that he just got there. Butch Davis and Swearingen are hooked up and just starting to pull away even from Beltrami back there in third. See what happens when they get to these lap trucks here up in front.
Those lap trucks are the group that did not come down to pit during the first caution flag. Angelo Espo, Brian Barnes, Earl Weaver in there. Everyone's starting to single file out here. This is the tell. Looking like we're going to be getting into pit stops here momentarily.
Ooh, that was close there.
Chris
As
Samard
Butch Davis slid up.
Chris Samard can't quite duck in line. Oh, contact, door-to-door contact between Earl Weaver and Chris Samard. Samard going around. And we're going to stay green, at least for the moment, because the incident is off the racing surface. So we will stay green, but that just made a huge break in the front pack. Now 2.5 seconds and growing from the lead pack to this group we're seeing here, led by Dan Brazington in 8th, trying to get their momentum back.
Yeah, that would have been a heck of a time for a caution for everybody. But we stay green, and now we're going to see who can work their way back down to that inside lane after getting spread out there a little bit.
Now Earl Weaver was just stuck in the middle of 3 wide between Keith Kelman, who is 4 position between himself and the 46. Will Fletcher there as well, as now this group's starting to get into line. Bentley Glazer coming down pit road, leading a group here in the back. Daniel Williams, David Weaver, Charles Woods, Ross Rawlings, Paul Crumry, Javier Torres all in. It's about 16 laps for that group.
And it looks like, if you were in one of these trucks up here, you're probably thinking about pitting this time by too. Don't want to go in by yourself, so.
Here they come. Everybody in except for the 4 and the 718 who came in under green. Rather uneventful pit entry for all of the competitors involved, exactly how they wanted it. Second group is all in as well, led by Dan Brazington, who overshoots his pit box. It's looking like fuel only for a lot of these guys as well.
Yeah, super speedway, you don't really need to worry too much about tire strategy at the moment. Bentley Glazer out here.
About 1.5 seconds, and really closing, though, is Eric Bolton. And these are the only two. Javier Torres, who came in with that group, led by Bentley Glazer, is about 17 seconds off the back of the 87. No penalties at all in this round of pit stops, as Lyle Swearingen will come in and out with the lead with Butch Davis right on his bumper.
Yeah, they were hooked up going into pits, and they got hooked up as soon as they came out. And they've grown the gap to Bob Beltrami there a little bit, but Beltrami's closing it as he catches that draft off of Davis there.
Jeff Schmeier about 1.1 seconds off of Beltrami, just out of draft range. Charles Woods, who is a lap down, has Rob Gall behind him now, and Gall, I'm sure, will probably try to close up that 2 seconds to Jeff Schmeier. Meanwhile, Dennis Fuson and Julian Ricci have found each other. Jeff Hollingsworth not that far behind. So that'll be a trio. And then here comes the group that's being led by Bentley Glazer. That's in 8th position. So this field well and truly broken up, as Wayne Fleet has had a moment. Take a look and see what happened with the 6. Oh, he may have run out of fuel. No damage, just really slow. And because of that incident with Chris Simard, this field incredibly broken up right now.
Yeah, not only were they broken up for that, but then you had all the green flag pit stops, which changed the way it is anyway. So you have the trio up front slowly pulling away, but Schmeier needs to slow down just a little bit to try and let Woods and Gall catch him, and then that'll be a trio, and they can start making some time on that lead group.
These two, Woods and Gall, have worked very, very well together to get up to the point where they are now. They're 3 seconds behind the front trio as we work lap 28 of 80 here at the Daytona International Speedway. Lyle Swearingen, Butch Davis, and Bob Beltrami lead the way here at Daytona. Just one caution thus far. 2 pit stops in, more to come here at Daytona. Back here at the Daytona International Speedway, round number 10 here for the Western States Racing League. Well, time to play a little game of good news, bad news. Good news for Lyle Swearingen, Bob Beltrami, and Butch Davis running up 1, 2, 3. They've got more cars in their group, and none of them are for position. Bad news that the fact that they've got more cars in their group has extended the bridge to allow Jeff Schmeier and Rob Gall to get up into the group. So now the top 5 drivers are in this front pack. Most of the cars in it, multiple laps down.
Yeah, you definitely want that because you gain more speed, but like you said, you also extend it to allow the guys you're trying to run away from to get there as well. And apparently it makes it 3 wide when you have lap cars go to the middle lane and then highline.
Oh, upside down, that's the 04.
Oh my.
Rob Gall backwards, that's Chris Simard. Dustin Burns was upside down. The cautions come out. And that erases what was a 13-second gap back to the second pack. What in the world happened there?
I don't know. I just saw the corner of the screen and went, oh, because that saw 04 upside down. Oh.
Burns. It's almost as if Burns hit the brakes.
Yeah. Checked up, and then everybody went right through him.
Like, I understand not wanting to bump Jeff Schmeier right there, but he just jammed on him, it looked like.
Looked like the 00 might have checked up just a little bit, causing Schmeier to check up, and then just that whole accordion effect.
So on board of Charles Woods here. This is what he saw. He was the one directly behind. Oop, there we go. Boy, there you go. Height of realism. Rob Gall involved as well. Already in it.
Yep.
Start this again from Dustin Burns. He just backs off to not run into the 30. And that was just what he did, was just way too much for the guys behind him to react.
Yeah, it's not even like hitting your brakes. He literally just let off the gas, and that slows you down tremendously there, and that's what happens.
Especially these trucks, because these trucks are not the height of aerodynamic quality. So when you let off the gas on an aero track like this, it's almost like it's like having a retarder on, or with a or putting deploying the parachute. As Eric Bolton will be your new leader.
Yeah, he was able to get down and get back out quicker than Swearingen Davis.
Came down pit road right as that wreck started. He entered his box. Fortuitous timing for 1007.
007 up 21 positions.
Not the biggest mover of the race, though. The 24 of Javier Torres, plus 24. He is the biggest mover. Bentley Glazer right in front of him, plus 23. Neither one of those guys putting a qualifying time down. Biggest fallers. Mike Fisher, who is no longer in this race, started from pole. He will finish no better or lower than 33rd.
Yeah, I got involved in that early incident and then just couldn't come back from it and called it a night.
He had the really long tow time, and he was a lap down, couldn't get caught back up to the field. And just a poor day, unfortunately, for Mike Fisher. It's a day that started off so well, starting on the pole. But the positives here are that this has bunched the field back up and put all of the lap cars at the back. So now we know the people running with the top three are, in fact, running with the top three.
Yeah, every place is going to be for position now up front. It also resets the pit strategy here. So you got halfway through the race, so you got 40 laps, and looks like we're getting 16, 17 laps on a green flag run. So it's be interesting to see how that works.
That's looking like either big time fuel save or 2 stops, is what my math would say. As we are waiting on the pace truck to jump on off, he does just that. Just 5 cars on the outside line. Green flag is back out. We are racing again here at Daytona.
Yeah, it looks like halfway through the field had a little bit of a checkup there in that bottom lane, but Bolton and Swearingen leading the inside-outside lanes. We'll see if Davis tries to get clear of the 68 and jump up in front, and looks like he will, and we're under caution.
Speaking it right into existence. As the caution has come out, looks like Jeff Hollingsworth has gone around. There he is. DAV number 97, only 2-time winner this season, winner at Hickory last time around. Take a look and see what happened here with the man who currently sits second place in points. From the restart. It's the last car on that outside lane. Just really snuck his way in front of Will Fletcher, and Fletcher just never gave him the room to settle the car in. Not to say that Hollingsworth gave him too much room to accept the car coming in.
Yeah, I definitely do not think that that there was any quarter given there.
Ross Rawlings playing Teammate of the Year award right here. It's your early nominee in March of 23. Giving Jeff Hollingsworth a shove to get onto pit road, and now the question will become, can Hollingsworth limp that staggered number 97 to his pit box? And it looks like he will be able to do that. So Hollingsworth will get the fast repair in without losing too much time. He will lose a lap as Jeff Schmeier comes down pit road. Bentley Glazer coming as well. Julian Ricci there.
So everybody, it looks like a couple guys coming down just to top off on fuel again to make sure if they do go green the rest of the way, they can almost split it in half then.
Every lap right now is definitely every lap right now is definitely important for that fuel to try to make it on one more stop. As Eric Bolton, Butch Davis, Lyle Swearingen, Bob Beltrami, Ryan Steele, your current top 5, and just as you stated right before we went to caution again, Butch Davis trying to jump up right in front of Lyle Swearingen. Be interesting to see if Swearingen tries to come up or if he tries to leave a gap behind Bolton on this restart to allow Davis to come down.
Well, I'm trying to remember this league. We might not even be doing a double file restart. It might be single file because they didn't even make a lap under that caution or after that caution there. So
we saw that for the final restart at Hickory, and that was with about 15 laps to go. We saw that rule come into effect. As we will, I believe, go one to go this time.
Yep.
And it looks like we are going to be single file.
So that will make it easy there.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about letting your buddy in line if you're already in line.
We'll see if Swearingen gets that back bumper of Butch Davis and they just power around the 007 of Eric Bolton there.
Probably be easier for them to do it as well, because if Davis and Swearingen go around the outside or go to the bottom of Eric Bolton, that leaves a huge gap between Bolton and any sort of help, whether that be Bob Beltrami or Dennis Fuson. Certainly won't be Dan Brazington with his links to Sim Racer's Edge as well. He'll most likely want to stay with the 43 and 68. So it could be a long way before Eric Bolton sees any help if the 43 and 68 decide to go for the race lead here.
Yeah, they need to kind of close up the gaps a little bit there to get this restart going good here. Looks like everybody in the back's kind of spread out though as well.
So here we go, getting set to go back to green flag racing, single file restart here at Daytona. Bolton on the inside line. Field is rather strung out. Green flag back in the air. As here we go back racing. Right around Bolton they go.
Yep, kind of saw that going to happen there as Beltrami links up and stays with those guys on the high side, but Bolton and Fuson get a little help there with Brazington.
Surprise, Brazington went with him as we see Earl Weaver going 3 wide, making the pass on Fred Williams, not for position with the 46. And that's another thing about these single file restarts. Field got spread out very, very quickly. And there, the second that Davis and Swearingen got out front, they left Bob Beltrami and Wayne Hutchison. Those two stuck on the outside, left to fall back in line.
Yep, they hooked up and got just enough to get in front of Bolton there and jump down to the inside line. Back to where they want to be as Davis is getting a heck of a push there from Swearingen.
Knowing what those two were going to do for Bolton, that was best case scenario right there, was just to fall from first to third on that restart, as now Fred Williams getting a push from the 16. Jeff Schmeier there as well, Paul Crumrye, Bentley Glazer, the 16 and 88 not for position. Those drivers are a lap down. Just the 95, 30, and 87 here are for position.
Yeah, they're using whoever they can to try and get a little bit of ground here. As you see a couple of trucks head into pit lane. Ryan Steele there.
Well,
It
Fletcher
looks like William Fletcher, yeah.
Now, these guys cannot make it from here. So interesting to see them coming down pit road now. They can make it on one more stop, certainly. As the top 7 pretty well straightened out. Jeff Schmeier still battling with Fred Williams. Now Williams relents. It's about a second between Hutchison in the 17.
Ricci into the outside wall, too.
Julian
Ricci got
Ricci.
pushed 3 wide right into that outside wall.
Julian Ricci multiple laps down in the number 1. Seeing right there. So we talked about it before, the bridge connecting the 2 packs. Right now, that bridge is the 46 of Earl Weaver, and he has pulled Jeff Schmeier into the lead group. And with that, Schmeier has pulled the second pack led by Fred Williams, or led by Bentley Glazer, pardon me, into this main group.
And as we were focusing on that, Davis got loose and gets stuck on that outside line all by himself. And now Crumry, Glazer all go around through the infield here.
Not on the race. Now the caution comes out.
Yep, Crumry went back across, and Espo went for a ride.
And that was Earl Weaver bunching up the field there. So try to see what happened again. Trying not to run over the faster car, it looked like. Watch Earl Weaver in the 46. Schmeier swings in line, and
just that hard checkup and that accordion effect.
It's the second time we've seen that here tonight. Try to ride on board with Weaver. Let's see what he saw. There we go. There he goes. Oh, he saw. Well, that's interesting. He saw the 17 checkup, which made the 30 checkup. So he jumped off throttle, and then after he was clear, he jumped off throttle again. So it looked like a double checkup from the 46. Paul Crumry's involvement.
Right into the driver's side door of Fred Williams there too.
Angelo Espo coming flying in. Bentley Glazer trying to limit the damage on his end. And pit stops are a-coming. So with 30 laps to go, one more pit stop should be able to get these guys through to the regulation end of this race.
Yeah, now you definitely start calling the race backwards if you're the crew chief here. Figuring out when you want to bring your driver down to top off and get that last pit stop.
So Lyle Swearingen wins the race off of pit road. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. 30 laps to go here from Daytona. You're watching round number 10 action for the Western States Racing League. Back here at the Daytona International Speedway, the caution flag has been extended after an incident on the back straightaway where a bunch of guys checked up and now trying to get everybody back into line properly. Some drivers taking this time to come down pit road. Right now, only the top 14 are on the lead lap. Swearingen, Beltrami, Davis, Schmeier, Hutchison, Brazington, Fuson, Gall, Bolton, Barnes, Glazer, Weaver, David Weaver, Torres, and Ryan Steele. Those are the 14 cars that are on the lead lap. Jeff Hollingsworth at the moment would be the one to get the free pass if the caution were to come out again. Darrell Scott and Ross Rawlings will be fighting with him one lap down, and it's come to the point where we have more cars not on the lead lap at Daytona than we do on the lead lap. Mike, I believe 1973 is called, not 2023.
Yeah. We'll see what these guys can do once they get hooked up again, as Butch Davis is going to be pushing Swearingen again.
So the two teammates on the inside, the two longtime league mates on the outside, Swearingen and Davis versus Beltrami and Schmeier. Green flag in the air. Bottom line gets the jump. Those two communicating. Get clear of Butch Davis. Bob Beltrami, and Beltrami immediately goes right down to the bottom.
Yeah, Beltrami has been basically playing third fiddle there with Davis and Swearingen most of the night. And then you go back and you see Schmeier and Fuson hooked up again. They worked well a little while ago. Rob Gall down there.
Dan Brazington, the one that's left on the outside line with no help. Earl Weaver at the back of this line. Again, not for position is that number 46. He's back in 18th right now with Daniel Williams behind him. Now Williams is fighting for position with Earl Weaver in the 46. As now this lead group, all lead lap cars that we can tell, except for Jeff Hollingsworth, starting to double up.
Yep. Bob Beltrami jumped up to that high side in front of Wayne Hutchison, going to see if he can get a push up towards the lead, but that bottom line, Swearingen and Davis have this track figured out, and they don't give up the lead easily.
The team game has certainly been very, very strong between Lyle Swearingen and Butch Davis. Jeff Schmeier, your points leader, sitting right there in the third position. Third car on the inside line. Rob Gall, in just his fourth race this season, running in fifth. Gall opened up this season very, very strong, as we had mentioned before, competing in the first four races. Finished 9th at Dover, 7th at Kansas, 14th at Daytona, and then the last time we saw him was back on January 24th. That was at Mid-Ohio. Finished 10th. 4 races, 3 top 10s. Not a bad start to the season. Unfortunately, Gall has been MIA since.
Yeah, that definitely put a damper on this season, as that kind of took him out of the championship run. But for all intents and purposes, our defending champion is pretty much out of the run, as he's missed several races as well. Bentley Glazer there.
Riding on board with Bentley Glazer. Looking at the back of Paul Crumry in the 88. A couple of OGR teammates lined up together. We've spoken so much about FBR Motorsports with Swearingen and Davis. Let's not forget about OGR. Paul Crumry, Charles Woods, Bentley Glazer, and Jeff Hollingsworth, all running line astern. And Bentley Glazer, the only one of those 4 on the bottom line that is running on the lead lap. Boy, watch out with James Campbell.
When you see these guys bouncing from top line to bottom line, it just makes me get a little bit nervous, because if anybody starts accelerating a little bit too much, or if you slow down just enough, you're going to get hooked and cause those big pileups that we've seen throughout the race here.
Now, with the major Season 2 update that came out a couple of weeks ago, there was no real change to these trucks other than iRacing updating the setups. A couple of big pushes got Swearingen a little out of sorts in the 68. No real changes were made to the tire model or the damage model or the handling model on these trucks. So these trucks are pretty much the same as they have been for the past couple of seasons on iRacing. So why these guys are having what would appear to be such a fight with these trucks tonight is a little bit eye-raising.
Yeah, maybe it's the fact that they haven't been in the trucks on I'll call it a real racetrack, but on one of these super speedway type tracks. Because, I mean, last week we were at Hickory as somebody just went flying down, looks like maybe Julian Ricci. But we haven't been on a track in we had the bye week, and then they had the 2 Xfinities. So, I mean, it's been quite a while since they were on the trucks on one of these bigger ovals here.
To your point, the last time these guys would have been on a bigger racetrack in these trucks would have been February 7th, 5 weeks ago, back at Darlington. If you remember, the Xfinity cars were used in Texas and in Iowa. And then, as Mike mentioned, at Hickory last week, where there was really no on-gas time. So it's been a little while since these guys have run these trucks wide open like this.
So we're getting closer to that window here where they can make it to the end here in a couple laps. So we'll see if anybody elects to try and maybe short pit or stay out a little bit longer and hope for a better outcome of their pit strategy here.
And again, you have to go back all the way to season 41, the fall of 2019, July 9th, 2019, the last time this series ran Daytona. Top 4 drivers to finish that race were Brian Barnes, Bob Beltrami, Scott Hutchison, not Wayne Hutchison, and David Weaver. The only other drivers that were in that race that are in this one: Dennis Fuson, Earl Weaver, Rob Gall, Wayne Hutchison, and Barry Phil. Those are the only other drivers from that race in this one.
And Davis and Swearingen are just pushing their way back out front. Again, get that inside line moving a little bit better, even though there's basically those 2 are the only ones that are, nose to stern there.
And because the field has gotten shuffled out and a couple of guys coming down pit road, Ryan Steele has really been left as the odd man out here. He is running in 12th, the last car on the lead lap, 18 seconds and rapidly falling behind this lead group, which is not made up of 11 cars. It's made up of quite a number more. And it's about to get one bigger, possibly, with Wayne Fleet about to get lapped. But Ryan Steele really hung out to dry.
Yeah, that's the problem when you get to these super speedways. If you don't have a friend, you can go backwards in a hurry. Looks like he found Julian Ricci, but I don't know how damaged Julian Ricci's truck is, if it's going to help or hurt that number 12 of Ryan Steele.
Ryan Steele does have a couple of teammates. Think of, once again, the larger picture. going to the Majors Series with Dog Bear Motorsports. You see on top there the decal at the top of the hood, the windscreen for Wayne Hutchison, that Dog Bear Racing team. Eric Bolton swings down to the inside. Both Steele and Hutchison run for Dog Bear. Bob Beltrami, another one who participates in the Majors Series. So he does have friends, just none that he could link up with, speaking of Ryan Steele.
These guys are still side by side, battling it out, completing lap, about 14 since they last pitted on lap 50.
Eric
So we'll
Bolton
see.
peeling out to go to pit road. So Bolton leaving little room for error as far as his pit strategy.
Yeah, we'll see if these other guys are going to come down within these next couple laps just to make sure they have enough for a couple green-white checkers.
There were a lot of pace laps in this run as well. Since these guys last came down pit road, there have been 7 pace laps. So these guys have not been up to full song. They could possibly extend it as far as lap 70, but they will absolutely need to come in again with the 45% fuel fill here tonight. As if Daytona and Talladega aren't challenging enough. Let's add fuel strategy and fuel mileage to the mix.
Yeah, just a bunch of green flag pit stops, right?
Yeah, you know.
I don't know if Davis and Swearingen wanted to do that, but they allowed everybody to come down to that inside line, except for, it looks like Fuson is stuck there on that high side for a little bit. So I imagine they're going to be hitting pit road any moment now.
Beltrami and Hutchison vacating that outside line as here comes Beltrami in. Boy, everybody coming in. What looked like a late pit attempt for Swearingen. Everyone looks to have gotten in okay.
Yes, Swearingen took the widest route possible to make it there.
Of all those drivers in that pack, Rob Gall and Bentley Glazer are the only 2 lead lap cars that did not pit.
Yeah, and they should come in this time. No question about that. So we'll see where Eric Bolton files out here shortly.
A lot tighter of a group in that top 4 between Swearingen, Davis, and Beltrami and Schmeier. As now here comes pretty much the rest of that front group, including all of the OGR cars, plus Rob Gall. Keith Kelman tagging along in the back as well. Look at the track map up at the top going into turn 3. That would be where your leaders are. It's kind of faded out numbers. That is where the drivers down pit road are. Four-car pack up here at the front, and they are about to now pass Bentley Glazer and company.
Ooh, almost got a little bit of a bad bump there. Did Swearingen from Davis.
Saw that wiggle, and that's going to move Bentley Glazer to the back of this group. Now he's be very, very keen to get in the draft as quickly as possible. I don't think he's going to catch it with the speed and momentum that he has. He's not. He's outside of a second. He's got 1 second back to Dan Brazington and company, who are up to speed. Brazington, Barnes, Fuson, and Hutchinson.
Yeah, Glazer's going to kind of want to figure out their line and kind of get sucked into them. so they can start catching this lead pack here.
Group of 4. Swearingen, Davis, Beltrami, and Schmeier versus a group of 5. Glazer, Brazington, Barnes, Fuson, Hutchinson. With 1.5 seconds between the two and 11 laps to go when we hit the line.
Glazer's sitting down on that inside. I'd be trying to.
Yeah,
There you go. Once they figure out how to get in line, because side by side is not helping any of them.
that really broke that group up as well. They're not losing too much time, granted. But this is, they're not losing time as far as gap, but they are losing time as far as what they could be catching right now. Because they're running side by side. Now it's just Dan Brazington left on the outside line. They've made up a good 2/10 down the back straightaway. They'll be up to this lead group in no time.
Yeah, if they all get hooked up, that margin will go away pretty fast here. It looks like Glazer's leading that pack now.
Gained a half a second in just half a lap. They're within a second, so now Glazer should be catching a little bit of Schmeier's draft. And this will make it a 9-car lead pack. All drivers running for position.
Yeah, they're catching them in a hurry here as Beltrami and Schmeier jump to the high side. He's going to try and get Glazer to go with him.
Those two tried to take a run, and whether or not they were trying to take a run or they were doing what I think they were doing, which was blocking off the run that Glazer and company were getting, either way, it's a genius move, as Beltrami may not have led the lap, but he kept that 87 and company at bay.
Yeah, Bob Beltrami's putting in work up front here on that outside lane. Was staying pretty much even with Davis there, but he started to fall back just a little bit as they kind of get a gap between Glazer and Fuson there.
Ross Rawlings and Javier Torres next up to be lapped. 9 laps to go. You see Rob Gall getting pushed by Jeff Hollingsworth. On board with Rob Gall, and that is and is not what you want to see. You want to see them running side by side, but man, they are so close but yet so far away.
Yeah, when you see them side by side, you think you're going to be gaining on them pretty quick, and then it just seems to take way longer than you think it will, but he is closing in ever so slightly on them.
Just ran the fastest lap of the race, too, at a 47.41. No one even within a half a second of that time. Oh, there goes Beltrami getting hit by Schmeier. Beltrami goes spinning off. He keeps the truck straight. Front pack severely broken up, but we stay green. And that was more net code.
That was terrible.
Let's take a look and see. Watch the 14. Watch how he kind of jump turns here. There goes Barnes up to the outside. He hits the wall. They made contact, but the back end of that 14, the way it comes out after is embarrassing.
Nobody was there. Yeah, no.
Watch this from Schmeier's point of view. 4 gets a bad bump from the 14. Contact there, and then just the 14 jumps around. Netcode has been very, very poor tonight. And that now leaves a 2-on-2 duel. Swearingen and Davis versus Hutchison and Fuson.
Yeah, what was looking to be a heck of a finish coming down to these final laps. Has now left us with 4 cars in this breakaway pack here.
More cars staying out of the way, keeping from being lapped. Julian Ricci has Ryan Steele with him now. That's what we talked about before as well. You see what's happening behind there. Brasington and Schmeier may not have been able to catch up to the top 4, but the fact that they've now caught the 1 and the 12 and used them as a bridge, now they have a shot at getting up to the front pack.
If they can just get Ricci to get that draft just a little bit, they'll jump out and go around him and be right on Fusson's back bumper shortly.
And what do we mean by a bridge? Well, if you're within a second, you're sniffing the draft of the car in front of you. If you're 1.5 seconds behind the lead pack, but there's a car about 0.6 off of them and 0.6 ahead of you, well, you're picking up the draft from that single car. They're picking up the draft from the group, and both of you guys can link up and move your way forward without actually being pushed. So kind of using that middle car as a draft bridge to help get you to where you need to be.
Exactly, and that's exactly what happened here, as now Brasington and Schmeier are all over that back bumper of Fusson. Fusson goes to the outside there as he starts to get a run on Hutchinson.
Notice as well, both of the lap cars, both the 12 of Ryan Steele and the 1 of Julian Ricci bailing out from the middle of the pack. They're at the tail end of this group, allowing these guys to race for the win with 3 laps to go.
And Fusson jumped to that high side, and he's just went backwards.
Not a lot of help out there as Butch Davis trying to deter the 17 from going outside. Nothing keeping him from going. Wayne Hutchison outside. That allows Jeff Schmeier to fill the gap. Ryan Steele there as well. Julian Ricci has fallen off.
Yeah, it looked like Schmeier was going to try and jump up behind that 17, but the 11 of Fusson just closed that gap, so he stayed down on the bottom. So we'll see if he tries to jump out in front of Hutchinson there and get a run on these 2 teammates of Swearingen and Davis here.
Those 2 have been so dominant all night long. Lyle Swearingen has by far and away led the most laps here tonight. In that number 68 FBR Motorsports Chevrolet Silverado. And once those 2 have gotten linked up, they have been nigh on impossible to pass here tonight. It is going to take a big group effort to try to beat those 2 FBR trucks out in front as we're coming to white flag. 1 more lap to go.
And Ryan Steele is pushing Schmeier for all he's worth to try and get him close enough to make that last lap pass that I'm sure we're going to see as it's starting to tick away here. White flag in the air.
Six of Wayne Fleet on the track, now peeling down to the bottom. Both of those FBR Motorsports machines getting down to the bottom before Jeff Schmeier can fill the hole. Wayne Hutchison and Dennis Fusson falling back. Now here comes the 30 of Jeff Schmeier. So he's looking to get a push from the 17. 17's not biting. And more net code between the 30 and the 12. Here comes the 17. He's still in the draft. It's going to be a 2-on-2, a 1-on-1 battle between Swearingen and Davis. Side by side, coming to the line. It is going to be Butch Davis just barely nosing out ahead of Lyle Swearingen for the race win.
That was close. It was left between those 2 after the horrendous amount of net code we saw. But it still was a close finish here between Davis and Swearingen.
I will say this, the net code here tonight really destroyed the quality of this race, and it goes right back to the first incident on lap 7 between the 5 and the 11. Still, between the two cars that were racing for the win, those were certainly the two cars that were the trucks to beat, and in the end, they couldn't be beat. As they nudge and work on each other back to the start-finish line. Butch Davis taking the win, his first win since returning to Western States. Mike, you are with our race winner right now.
Hey, Butch, Mike up in the booth. You got a copy?
Woo, yeah, man.
And heck of a race. You guys had the two dominant cars, and you guys just put on a show there at the end a little bit after everybody wrecking behind you. But how was that race treating you there with that limited fuel strategy?
It actually kind of benefited us. Lyle and I think, along with Bob, showed that for the most part, we were pretty solid on the pit stops. Getting in clean, getting out clean, and actually doing it and gaining time. Multiple times coming into the pits. Even I got loose out front at one point, slid up the track because I didn't want to cause a big wreck. And just kind of like told Lyle, hey man, just keep running your thing. I'll get back up there. And I don't even know where I was when I came into the pits, but I came out third. So just nailed the pit stops all night, and that really, hey, it was a great team effort. Lyle and I have raced together for 10 plus years. Plate racing is something that we're really good at. We like Daytona, Talladega, and stuff. So it was nice to come out here and kind of just put one together for a change.
Yeah, your first win since coming back. Usually we would see you guys on Thursday nights, but heck of a race win. Are you planning on running the rest of the season as well?
I'm going to try to run it as much as I can, as long as my work schedule allows it, and as long as the league continues to have us here. We come out here, we try to race hard, try to race fair, and and sometimes it bites us in the butt like it did me last week, and that's part of the deal. Live by the sword, die by the sword kind of thing. But we're just gonna keep coming out and just having fun. I really don't care where I finish. It's nice to win, but I don't care where I finish as long as I have fun. Getting to battle with Bentley Glazer and guys like that. That really just kind of tries to really bring out the best in you. That's just something that every competitor strives for, and I love racing guys like that. So yeah, we're gonna keep coming and keep trying to up our NASCAR game.
Awesome. Well, anybody you want to thank before we let you go?
I want to thank all my guys at FBR Motorsports. This team's been around since 1996, and we're still thriving and still kicking butt. And I love those guys. With all my heart. They are absolutely family to me. Thank my wife and kids for letting me, indulge in this stuff. Thank Bob Beltrami and everybody at WSRL for putting this on and having us over. And thank you guys up in the booth. Frank, we miss you on Thursdays, man. But as soon as iRacing gets their beep car thing sorted out, we can maybe get the boop car back onto broadcasting.
Stellara IR18s, they don't work all that well anymore.
Yeah, I know. It's sad. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right. Thanks, Butch.
So that was Butch Davis, your race winner. Now to our second place finisher, Lyle Swearingen. And Lyle, you came so close for so long leading that race, and unfortunately just had the momentum, and at least your teammate is the one that got by you instead of somebody else, right?
Oh, yeah. Last lap, anything goes. I mean, we all know that. But, yeah, Butch and I did exactly what we needed to do all night. We got up to the front, kept our trucks clean, had amazing pit stops. It was pretty much a textbook night for us.
Now, it looked like these trucks were really, really uncontrollable here tonight. A lot of guys moving around, especially in the middle of the pack. I know you were up at the front for most of the night, but still, what was it about these trucks that just made them seem so unruly tonight?
Well, the tires didn't wear, so no one took tires just to get that quicker pit stop, or they might do right sides. Um, for most of the race, we did no tires except for one. We tried rights, and at least with no tires, when you get back out on the track, it was really squirrely. When the truck's pushing you from behind, um, something about the air pressure, just the tire temps being high at the time. So, yeah, I was a little. I mean, I felt it too up front. I had a couple of moments there where, Butch gave me a bump, and nothing he did wrong. It's just a little swirly in the end, so I just had to be ready for it.
We head back to the Xfinity cars next week, going to the Chicagoland Speedway. What are your thoughts going into Chicago in those Xfinity cars?
It should be a lot of fun. I mean, we started racing the NASCARs more than uh, more than in the recent times. So, just learning all we can with them, what we could do, what we can't do, how to be there at the end. So, I mean, every race is going to be a race where we learn for half the race, and maybe in the second half we can apply what we learned. Um, and yeah, so should be fun.
All right. Anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, just thanks FBR Motorsports, all my teammates, Butch, Dan, Chris Samard, Chad, everybody that races these things, and then soon to become the FBR Simrig Accessories Creation Studio. You'll know about that here in the near future soon enough. And then just thanks WSRL for hosting these races for us. It's been a blast.
All
And
right.
thanks to you guys.
Thank you very much. Your second place finisher tonight, Lyle Swearingen, but congratulations.
Yep. Hopefully we'll see you soon in the open wheels.
Hopefully. As I want to apologize for. I know that final call may have sounded a little bit deflated, and it had nothing to do with the finish. It was an absolutely fantastic finish, and I didn't mean to take anything away from it. It just the amount of obvious net code that we saw play its part in crucial moments in this race. We saw it happen right at the very beginning on lap 7, taking out the leader and about half of the field. We saw another incident where after the wreck had already happened, more cars just nowhere near each other, giving damage to other cars because of net code. And then right there at the very end, we had a 9-car pack broken up by a very, very bad showing of net code, and then even more finally killing dead what would have been a very entertaining run to the finish.
Yeah, definitely puts a little bit of a damper on it, but we did have those two cars battling it out, and not even like a thousandth of a second separated those two. So it was a heck of a race, heck of a finish for those guys.
Yep, definitely a very, very good finish, but unfortunately the iRacing cloud will loom over this race when you guys go back and take a look at it. Take a look at the results here tonight. Butch Davis, Lyle Swearingen, Wayne Hutchison, your top 3. Dennis Fuson, Rob Gall, your top 5. Bentley Glazer, Jeff Schmeier, Brian Barnes, Dan Brazington, and Eric Bolton, your top 10 finishers. Brian Barnes, the last driver to finish on the lead lap because of net code, because of pit strategy, just a bunch of stuff happening tonight. Jeff Hollingsworth, Ryan Steele, David Weaver, Ross Rawlings, Keith Kelman, your top 15. Darrell Scott coming away with a very good finish in the 62. Earl Weaver, Daniel Williams, James Campbell, and Javier Torres, your top 20. Paul Crumry, Charles Woods, Angelo Espo, Bob Beltrami, Julian Ricci, your top 25. Fred Williams, Will Fletcher, Alan Bergen, Dustin Burns, your top 30. Chris Samard, Austin Williams, Mike Fisher, Barry Phil, Carl Burke. Rounding out the drivers that finished this race, Cody Matthews and Michael Bourne did not start the race here tonight. So that will do it for us here from Daytona and for the first half of the Western States Racing League Season 48. Half number 2 kicks off next Tuesday night from the Chicagoland Speedway in the Xfinity cars. So for my broadcast partner, Mike DeMoney, my name is Frank Marchese. Thank you very much for making us a part of your evening. We will see you all next week from Joliet, Illinois. Good night, everybody.